With the addition of Ransom on 15th of June, Brawlhalla now has 66 legends to choose from, and with a weapon system that standardizes most of the moveset, you could realistically pick any one of these 66 and stand a fair chance of winning, provided you know the weapons. But just like any other fighting game, Brawlhalla player base has its biases in favor of some legends and in detriment to others. So with the start of this brand new-ish series of mine, what better way to kick things off than with a legend that nobody plays?
Vector!
Welcome to a Plat's Take. I'm the Plat. Hi, my name is Remag. I've played Brawlhalla for almost 3 years now, and I'm still not good at it. Originally this series was known as Remag Rates, but as a legend analysis series, it kind of felt a bit too lazily done. So I wanted to rebrand it in a more professional way. Hopefully you guys enjoy this more than the old series. Have we had for long enough? I think I've got for long enough. And doesn't mean make sure to cut this. Vector is the 47th legend in the game, coming in with Lance and Bow. And therein lies our first problem, weapon combination. Despite being a ranged weapon with a lower barrier of entry than its counterpart Blasters, Bow is the 9th most played weapon in the game out of the current 15 weapons, just behind Blasters at 8th. So statistically speaking, Bow legends will always be at a disadvantage just for having Bow. And you might be thinking, but Remag, aren't some Bow legends used by professional players in tournaments? And you'd be right, but pay attention to which Bow legends exactly. Zariel with Bow and Gauntlets, Diana with Bow and Blasters, Kaya with Bow and Spear. In the current meta, all 3 of these weapons are better than Bow, and have higher play rates. We can conclude then that the pros play these Bow legends not for their bows, but for their alternate weapons. So going back to Vector, his alternate weapon is Lance, and Lance has always been in a bit of an odd state. Lance is a prime example of a weapon that destroys people in lower elos, but gets destroyed in higher elos. Most of its attacks are horizontal, which heavily punishes players that don't understand vertical movement. For this reason, most of the Brawlhalla subreddit complaint posts about how broken Lance is come from people who are generally lower in the ranks, whilst the higher ranks just shrug their shoulders and don't really care. Put all of that together, and you have a legend whose first weapon is overshadowed by meta picks, and whose second weapon is generally disliked. Not a great start for our resident superbot, but maybe his signatures are something to write home about. Let's take a look at them. Starting off with Lance, for his neutral signature, Vector flies upwards in a simple crescent arc. Like most Lance neutral signatures, the area this covers is generally diagonal, but the way it does this is different and unique. Instead of covering this area by going in a direct diagonal line, Vector takes the long way around, first going upwards and then outwards. This allows you to attack not only diagonally above you, there we go, but also directly above you. This Sig doesn't hit grounded, but it does carry momentum, and it is also one of the few Sigs unaffected by gravity, allowing him to essentially float off stage. It also has a wall variant, which sees Vector flying vertically along the wall. This version has greater travel speed than the normal variant and travels further, making it a great tool for recovering back off stage, as well as catching opponents off guard.
Wall version. Oh.
If you manage to connect the attack, it has quite a bit of vertical force.
Wall version. That one got him. Jeez. That's really high up. Damn.
You won't necessarily get a kill with this attack in real game, but at the very least you can send your opponent far away and give yourself plenty of time to reset to neutral. For his side signature, Vector jumps up and flies diagonally downwards with an explosion at the end of the attack. This might seem like a fancy alteration of Vrax's Lance side sig, however, Vector's side sig has a lot more utility in the form of not 1, not 2, but 3 different variants. The on-stage variant is the one you'll use most often. It covers about half the stage, and it functions well as an anti-air, which is not something a Lance side sig usually does.
There we go. I need DC. Okay. I mean, the match was going in your favor, man. You still have the lead.
It doesn't hit up close though, so use it as a tool to close distance rather than as a get off move. The off-stage variant cuts out any horizontal flight and bounces Vector backwards. And the wall variant is just a shorter version of this, but with a bigger explosion. These attacks have a lot more force than it might seem, which make them quite effective for killing.
Oh, boom, there we go.
In fact, here's a clip I hit earlier. You can also use the bounce to fake people out. I find it works pretty well.
Gotcha, bitch!
And finally for his down sig, Vector jumps back and fires 2 pairs of, energy blasts? Fireballs? What are these things? This is the quote-unquote worst sig in this kit since it has the least force, but it has a lot of cool little details that I think might convince you otherwise. For one, if you activate the attack, then immediately hold in the direction you're facing, or the opposite direction, then the distance that Vector jumps will change. This is like a crude version of active input that was first seen on Azel's bow down sig. For 2, the second pair of, let's call them projectiles, travel further than the first pair. This allows you to hit 3 projectiles in one attack for over 30 damage, but it's very situational and only works when the opponent is stacked on top of you and has taken no damage. For 3, Vector stops falling after the second shot, not the first. So by slide charging this SIG, you can create a wall of hitbox by stacking the projectiles. To aid with this, the down SIG is steerable off stage, and highly steerable at that. Both of these combined make it a formidable offstage attack.
Stack, let's go. And there we go!
And of course, the projectiles interact with the wall, which allows you to do this. I know exactly what happened here, but I think I'll let you figure it out. Moving on to Bo, for his neutral signature, Vector fires a laser beam. No, not that one, I meant the cooler laser beam. Yes, that one, thank you. The attack is aimed at a higher angle than N-Light, which makes it tougher to hit. I would recommend spending some time in the training room practicing the timing and spacing of the signature, because it is a very good anti-air. It's the perfect example of a move that has high risk, but gives you high reward if you manage to successfully land it. Because when you do land it, boy does it have an effect. And if you're thinking about trying downlight into NSIG, no, just don't. NSIG has way too much startup to make this a reliable string in any sense of the word. But if you really want to do it, then you're going to need a lottery. For his side signature, Vector turns into a... This move has a lot of startup, but hits like a truck, harder than NSIG does. Again, I would recommend spending some time learning how and when to use the SIG. But this one's a lot easier to learn. You get used to it after like a few consecutive games tops. Though this SIG can feel a bit clunky, it is genuinely a good attack. It just takes a bit of skill to use. A trait as some legends in this game clearly lack. I even managed to hit a clip with it. And finally, the down signature is just a more forgiving version of Cross Blast's down SIG. This SIG is a proper get-off-me tool, and it is quite easy to hit. You'll find yourself using this move a lot more than the other two, so in exchange, it deals less damage and has less force. So now we come to my verdict. What is this Plat's take on Vector? Well, let me put some Brawlhalla gameplay on so you don't get bored. I really have tried to like Vector. I genuinely have. The thing about low play rate legends is that I always find it intriguing to find out exactly why they have such low play rates and whether or not they deserve such low play rates. But with Vector, I mean, you gotta see why. I already talked about the situation with his weapons, but there's also the fact that he was the first non-orb legend to release when Orb was a new and shiny weapon for anyone to play with. So from the get-go, he was on the back foot. And then you go into his signature kit and his case doesn't really improve. Like, I do enjoy Bow at least. Like, Bow is a fun weapon for me to play. I can't say I play it very well, but it is nice to learn, and it is always satisfying to snipe people with N-Light or Dare from, you know, that far away. Lance though, well, Lance is Lance, for want of a better phrase. The gameplay of base Lance is just going sideways. Like, there's not much that you do in terms of the Y-axis, and there's not much where you can do to change that. Some legends are able to change that. I mean, with Thea, I can confidently say that I enjoy Thea's Lance kit because her archetype is being the weak speed, so, you know, death by 1,000 cuts type of thing. And she plays into that really well with her signatures that don't deal much damage, don't have much force, but flow so well into a kit, and of course are really fast, that it just doesn't really matter. Like, as long as you know how to use the SIG properly, you can have a real good time with both her battle boots and her lance. So, as I said before, I can confidently say that I enjoy Thea's lance, but I can't say the same for Vector's lance. So Vector's lance signatures don't really detract from the gameplay of base lance, which personally is this weird mixture of boring and slightly finicky, neither of which are good things. So to sum it all up, this Plat's take on Vector is, well, if you're not an enthusiast of either of his weapons, then he's outstandingly mid.
Well, at least he's immortalized.